All of my hustling homies, come to the front of the room. We need to have a talk. My question is, do you know how to do business with friends? Some of you may even ask, can you do business with friends? Well, let's talk about it at Hustle Headquarters. But I want you to understand this, that here at Hustle Headquarters, we believe that you have to do business with friends in 2021 and beyond. And I say that because the corporate structure is pretty much destroyed. So most likely when you're independent and you're building from the ground up, you're going to be doing business with people who look like you. So we'll talk about that, but I want to talk about Joe Buddens, how he recently just fired two of his close longtime friends, Rory and Mal, from the show. And we're going to play the audio. And for those who are a little bit familiar with, or if you're not familiar at all, so Joe Buddens is one of the top podcasters. He has two of his friends on the show. And Joe Buddens is the actual owner. And his friends were, I guess, employees. They had a contract as employees. And I believe they wanted to have more rights than was in their contract. And it kind of just went ugly, most likely due to lack of communication, maybe lack of clear defined roles or some entitlement. But anyway, let's just hear the video. Hear Joe fight him, right? He's going to fire both of them live on the podcast. So you're getting it exclusive. So let's listen to it.
Change the benchmarks. Hey, y'all go get a deal and bring it back. I'll take less. I'll take less. Not much less. Not much less. But I'll take less if y'all source it. Hey, y'all go get the advertiser and the integration. Hey, we talk about these deals all the time. You bring it, you eat different. I bring it, I eat different. You niggas ain't brought shit. And got the nerve to have y'all fucking representation that ain't been around in 6 years hit Ian phone about something? I won't say what I want to say, but y'all will not continue to treat me this way. Y'all not gonna continue to treat these people this way. Y'all take that fucking dark energy, that arrogance, and that entitlement somewhere else.
PTSD.
I say all of that to say, we gonna do this. Since Rory feels like he has so many options here. Somehow he still feels like he's running the show. He still feels like he has choices and options. He feels like he's entitled to more. Rory, you are in breach of your contract, and from this point forward, you are fired, and you're not welcome back. Does anybody in here have a problem that I'm the person that has to say that?
No.
Maul, I'm the person that has to say that. The gall of you to think that you are observing the way that I am. Rory and Maul can go start a podcast. Well, no, they can't. Not at least for another year. By contract. If they do, I'm going to sue the fucking pants off of them. But whenever they're able to, they can go and start a podcast. They can pay for the staffing. They can source the advertising. They can source the integrations. They can pay the insurance.
Studio time.
They could pay for the studio time, set, location, engineer. They could pay for the LLC formation. They could pay for the insurance. They could pay what it costs to go on tour. You could pay what it costs for the hours of lawyer work for deals that don't get done. You can go do all of those things. Okay, let's talk about that. So that was a lot of information. Let's slowly start to unpack some of this stuff. Now, first and foremost, children, when you're doing business with friends, even if it's a non-friend, what tends to happen is people don't know what their role is. And sometimes people think their role is bigger than the overall team.
And so Rory and Miles, it sounds like because these dudes were on camera, they felt like, well, people are watching this because of us and our opinions and my personality. But when you think like that, when you think only about your role, you forget that the actual owner, you don't know what they're doing behind the scenes. So Joe Budden, for a prime example, I mean, look, this dude talked about, look at all these costs he paying. You got to pay the cost to be the boss. So he's just mentioned every cost that the average person on the team may not even think about. He's paying insurance, studio, sound, tour fees. He's paying attorney fees. He's paying. He's putting up money for advertising. All of those little itemized things. He's paying for accountants. I'm pretty sure Rory and the other team members, just like your friends, they may not be looking to pay all of those costs, right? They're just thinking about the check that they get and the check that you get, and they're not looking at the work that you're doing behind the scenes. So we got to know how to respect each other's roles, and also know when someone else is paying all of the bills, you're not in a very strong position typically, unless you put yourself in a position where you're going to pay some bills every month, and you got to have that in writing as well. Second thing, and he mentioned in that contract, he just said that these guys under contract cannot create another podcast for a year. Why would they even have that in their contract? This is when you got to have a good attorney on deck that's representing you. If I'm in the podcast business with my friends, I'm building my own brand. If anything could go left at any point, I am not going to have a contract that says if I leave this podcast, I cannot go into the business for another year. The same business that I have built my bread and butter on, most likely. So that sounds like a bad contract that they had. The bad attorney, they didn't have a good representation. You got to have a good attorney, good representation, clear defined roles at the beginning, clear defined understanding of what the payments are going to look like. Meaning if we get a deal, this is how the percentages are going to be cut up. And that needs to happen at the beginning. And these are uncomfortable conversations, but you got to have these conversations at the beginning. Because right now we're living in a day and age where whatever energy you putting into something, look for the long-term benefit. If I'm a part of the Joe Buddens podcast, first and foremost, I'm looking at how can I leverage this over the next 10 years? Am I going to have some products or something for sale? How am I going to be building my brand so that if I leave this spot, my brand is still going to get paid some residual equity or something over 10 years? I'm surprised they didn't discuss at the beginning of the relationship to say, hey, after a year, we get X amount percentage of equity where we own percentage of this. And it has to be written and agreed at the very beginning of the show. But I get it. A lot of times we come in as friends. We're not trying to do all of that. But even though it's necessary, but at least the minimum of what they could have done is just play their roles better. Like, hey, if you put yourself in a bad deal where Joe has all of this power, or you gotta now play your role. If this is the Pope and you're the bishop, be a bishop. Don't try to do what the Pope does. So just get the most out of it. I would stay on the show, and I would just slowly start positioning and I would tell them, I'll say, hey, I need some power here. Let's renegotiate. But you got to play your role. So with that being said, guys, look, you got to have friends that you can build with. I don't think you can avoid it. You just got to know, how do you differentiate between which friends? Because they need to be like-minded. They need to be people who are disciplined, people who are not just falling victim to women, not trying to just have sex everywhere. They got to have some basic discipline. So you got to look for that. People that are going to be consistent when y'all have meetings. Sometimes you can start with your friends. If you want to weed your friends out, start out with your friends and family. Have a call. Say, hey, every Sunday we're going to have a call at 12 noon. And start giving people assignments. And if people are coming late and people are, that's a red flag. If you're doing a 12 o'clock noon and people got assignments and they're not doing their assignments, that's a red flag. So that's letting you know that potentially in the future, this may not work out. Now, I get it. Some of y'all may have friends that you really love and respect a lot, but we just got to have those real clear conversations at the beginning and have stuff in writing. Hey, this is my goal. This is my equity. This is what I'm willing to give up and what I'm not willing to give up. Because if you don't, it's going to come back to hurt you. So But it happens in life. You're gonna have these type of situations. We just got to know how to bounce back from them. So with that being said, guys, subscribe to the page. We could talk more about this in detail. I just don't want to make this video extremely long. But if you want to talk more about these conversations and learn about cryptocurrency, real estate, and all that, subscribe to the classes, subscribe to the channel, like the videos, turn on notifications. We're doing videos every day. We dropping new content so to help you be able to grow your legacy. So with that being said, I'm your platform partner, your hustling homie, and I'm out.